Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. It's 5:32 p.m. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board, and we are going to start with the pledge if you'd like to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Randy.
Okay, so Trustee Winslow is excused and absent tonight, absent and excused. Trustee Kidda?
Here.
Trustee Leighton?
Here.
Trustee Everson?
Here.
Treasurer Rickhauer?
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas and our attorney Roger Zappa. See, our Fire Chief Dan Shanahan is here, and Lenny Bodinas, our Superintendent of Public Works, is online. And let me see, I don't see anyone else out there. I see Rob Sved from the DDA there, and Denny Ferraro from the Planning Commission is here. So I believe that's everyone.
Perfect. Great, thank you. I'll give you a little preface for anybody who's not used to our board meetings. As the agenda states, if you have it in front of you, this board is here to conduct business tonight, and you're welcome to speak twice in public comment, now and at the end of the meeting. If you would like to speak on a specific agenda item, I'd appreciate if you come up to the public comment at the podium and let us know which item you'd like to reserve time on when that item comes up. However, this is not an open format. We will not be answering questions back and forth. You're allowed to make your comments, and that's it for board consideration. So if anybody would like to address the board now, before we start, name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, Dennis Ferraro, 238 Eagles Nest Road, and I'd like to reserve my time for item 8A, following Manager Kangas' report. I understand he's going to make a report. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
Rob Stead, Chair of the DDA, also like to reserve time for 8A.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Ernest Johnson, 1962 West Fair, request time at 8A.
Thanks, Ernie.
Christy Wagner, I live at 1325 Granite Street in Trowbridge, and I'd also like to request time, reserve time for 8A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Antonio Dunn, Housing Specialist and Land Bank Director for Marquette County, would like to reserve time for 8A. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio.
Go ahead.
I'm coming to talk to you about Lions Field. Last meeting, you talked about Lions Field and cutting down the hours. Okay, if you cut down the hours on pickleball, you also have to cut it down on the baseball team that come in and play. And a lot of times their second games don't start until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. To me, we have a saying in the township, live, work, play. So when we start saying you only can play at these times, are we really allowing play? I go by the pickleball. I was walking my dog back by it, I believe on Sunday, a couple of days ago. A grandfather was out there with his little grandson and his teenagers playing pickleball, teaching his grandson that's little how to play it. It sure beats them being on an e-bike and almost running me over. It sure beats them sitting in the house watching TV or on the computer. They're getting exercise. Isn't that what we're all about? So to me, if pickleball people want to be done at 8, that's fine. And when they were playing pickleball yesterday, they were out there with their blowers drying off the field because it was soaked with all the rain. They didn't say, Township, you need to keep this dry. They were doing the work. I know the neighbors say it's noisy, but when you get a house and you build it and you buy a house right next to the park, you can't expect it to be quiet. When you look at a house and that they code how loud it is. And when you look on houses for sale, if it's next to a park, they have it very, very loud. It's like buying a house next to the freeway. You buy your house next to the freeway. Do you expect then no trucks to go down the freeway? Of course not. So when you buy property, you have to look what's next to you. My mom's 93 years old. She played at this park. That's how long Lions Field has been there. And we fixed it up, so we've drawn people there now. We have birthday parties over by the children's. And if it's getting too loud for pickleball, do we then eliminate how long children can be in the park because they're too loud? Think about that when you're looking at this. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Appreciate it.
Mitch Nordall with Wildflower, 565 Lake Enchantment Trail, looking for a spot at 8A.
Thanks, Mitch.
Elizabeth Bates, 208 Eagles Nest Road. I didn't know you could do that. I'd like to reserve a spot for 8A also. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
I forgot to give them my address. They know where I live.
Jen Hill, and I live at 503 Craig Street in Marquette, and I would like to reserve time for 8A.
Thanks, Jen.
Hello, I'm Dina Sved. I live at 1420 Cox Avenue. I'm here to talk about the Lions Field Community Park and the board decision to change the noise ordinance for the pickleball hours. Years ago, this park was neglected. It was empty, lifeless, and forgotten. But through the township's strategic planning, we made the commitment to bring it back to life for our youth, our seniors, and our community. And we did it. We updated the kiddie park, we revived the baseball field, built a hockey rink, and transformed our unused tennis courts into a vibrant pickleball court with a $30,000 investment. The result? A thriving, active space filled with laughter, movement, and connection. Isn't that what we would want in a community park? Pickleball has become an activity for many, especially in our very short summer season that we have. Now, because one neighbor finds the sounds to be disruptive and unsustainable living, the board has voted to restrict play hours and change the noise ordinance hours without giving the Recreation Committee a chance to explore solutions. They have already offered compromises with sound barriers, limited hours, and respectful signage. But this is not just one complaint, it's about the health and happiness of dozens of residents who enjoy the Lions Field. Changing the park quiet hours limits noise in the entire park. It's gonna affect baseball, it's gonna affect the kiddie park. So we're gonna tell people they can't play in the park after 9 p.m.? Really? Well, 8 o'clock for pickleball, but 9 o'clock for the noise ordinance. I urge the board to reverse the motion and let the Recreation Committee do its job. Let's find a fair solution that respects the concerns without silencing the joy of dozens of residents. Lions Field is a success story. Let's protect it. And then while I'm here, I just wanted to say that as far as the Renovarty project, I saw that the board members had said they only received comments against the project. So now that I'm on record, I just want it to be known that I am a township resident that thinks we should move forward with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dina.
Dean Kimmis, 2132 Cherry Street. It's the whole neighborhood that doesn't want the pickleball, not just me. And I think didn't quite hear as far as on the two north end courts, if that could start at noon, because it's like I said, it's very loud in my bedroom and living room, and so I'm looking for a little bit of relief. And once again, we know what the decibel rating is and what suggested decibel rating in a residential neighborhood. So there is a lot of room at Northern's courts and a lot of room at Sands Township. So that is one thing I just was curious about, would be in the morning, the two north courts as far as starting at noon for some noise relief. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Anybody else wish to address the board? Before we get started. Okay, any board member comment in relation to what we've heard? Okay, thank you. So we need approval of tonight's consent agenda, which consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of August 6, 2025. We have bills payable in the amount of $187,555.52. The sheriff's activity report from July of 2025. The Semco Public Service Commission hearing is August 28th. Michigan Township Association thank you letter for renewing our subscription, our membership. And we will consider the Michigan Township Association legislative platform at the next agenda. So I put it in here so you have a chance to read it and make any comments next meeting if you have any. Also included the University of Michigan close-up report from August and the Peter White Public Library regular board draft meeting minutes of Tuesday, August 5th.
Accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we just need approval of the remainder of the agenda, unless there's anything that we're changing.
So moved. Support.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, first up is Maureen McFadden, our annual report on the Marquette County Senior Services Center. Thanks for coming.
Yes. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Hi.
And you had a good birthday party?
We
downtown?
did. We had a really good birthday party. I want to say thank you for inviting me to come give our annual report today. And also thank you for all the residents that are here. It's nice to have such a well-attended meeting. I know I'm not the main reason people are here today, so happy to take advantage of it. So we did. We had our senior center just celebrated our 60th year. So I was saying our senior center became a senior. It was the 60th anniversary of the Marquette Senior Center and the 60th anniversary of the singular piece of legislation that protects senior services in America, the Older Adult Americans Act. So we decided it was a great time to celebrate. So thank you, Lynn. So as she said, my name is Maureen McFadden. I'm the Senior Services Manager for the City of Marquette. One way I always like to start these presentations is even though I am a City of Marquette employee, I serve the larger area. So I serve Marquette Township. I also serve Powell Township and Chocolate Township. So we are a very unique city division and department in and of ourselves. And I am very thankful to be here today.
Is that working, Marie?
Let's see here.
Press down. Is that working?
I don't think I can get it. There we go.
Okay, I think I did that, but.
You might have to do it for me. Sorry
Okay,
about
that's
that.
fine.
So aging services, to just give a brief overview for those who are unfamiliar, here in Marquette County, we have our Marquette County Senior Millage, which I'm thankful to say passed at a rate of 87% approval last year when it was up for vote. So thank you to all the taxpayers that believe in our mission. This funding helps support all the aging services we provide. So we provide caregiver services, community services, and in-home services. Primarily, that millage funding pays for what we call priority services, and that is about 70% of what senior centers do. So that would be social work services, things like information and assistance, in-home care, case management, financial management, personal care, chore services, Meals on Wheels. We're talking about things that really keep people living independently in their homes. We are very fortunate here in Marquette County to have 4 senior centers. I'm presenting on the one that serves these residents today, and that is the Marquette Senior Center. The Marquette Senior Center is the largest senior center in Marquette County. We serve 46% of the older adult residents in the county. That is who we're responsible for. Since the 2010 census, that amount of individuals has increased by 16%. As I'm sure you can imagine, our revenue has not increased by 16%. So it has presented us with unique challenges that I'm very proud to say our staff has courageously responded to, given the current fiscal barriers that we have. So these are just, this is from the National Council on Aging, 3 reasons to support home care. I know the audience here and you commissioners might not be able to, board members might not be able to read this. It's small, but I will send the presentation so you can review it on your own time. We can continue. Again, some more statistics on what matters as we age in our community. I would like to note that Marquette County in particular is one of the fastest aging communities in the state of Michigan. So we are talking about people 60 and over for these services. For people to access our services, because we are supported by millage dollars, it's actually free for people to access our services once they live in our service area. And that is programs as well as social work services. One unique thing about our senior center when we started is we opened that up to people 50 and over for just programming in general or information and assistance, because what we're noticing is what we call a sandwich generation, where people in their 40s and 50s are now taking care of their parents and they need support as well. Or people in their 40s and 50s are considering maybe what their retirement is going to look like. We want to encourage them to stay in the area, and we want to be able to ensure a smooth transition so they can be as healthy and safe as possible. Next slide. So I mentioned how unique we are. We are located in the city of Marquette, and I am a City of Marquette employee because we are also supported by a City of Marquette Senior Services millage. So our senior center is unique. We have 2 millages that support what we do, and that is why we are located within the City of Marquette. Those taxpayers pay a little bit more for the services we provide. We are within the division of our Department of Community Services, so that is wonderful for us because we get to work with Parks and Recreation and the Arts and Culture Division as well. Got cut off there, but you can see how much fun we're having. Again, our mission is to help people live with the maximum dignity possible in an environment of their choosing. Next slide. These are some of our staff members we have. So for the over 11,000 residents that have, unduplicated residents that have used our services just in the last year, we have 3.5 social workers to serve those 11,000 people. Myself, my part-time administrative assistants, our program coordinator, and we also have 9 unpictured direct care aides that go into the homes to provide service. Next slide. Again, eligibility requirements, cost and coverage area. I talked a little bit about that. One thing I would like to highlight is we are noticing that for our programs and services, we are getting people from outside our coverage area. That has increased by about 13% since January of 2025. We are getting people from Escanaba, Sault Ste. Marie, Alger coming in to play pickleball or to access our free tax preparation service that we provide, things of that nature. So that has been very interesting to see. Next slide. Here are some of the programming we provide, and then that statistic I said about 11,000 unduplicated clients served just in this past year. So we have senior arts programs, we have a nationally recognized outdoor recreation and education program, we have our health promotion programming and continuing education programs, information and assistance, other recreational programs, and then of course the social work services. Okay, this is where it gets broken down between the 4 centers. What I particularly want to highlight, of course, is the Marquette Township area. So Marquette Township, we are looking at about 1,353 people over the age of 60 that qualify for our services. One thing I found interesting about that is I ran a report today to see what the attendance was from Marquette Township residents at our senior center. We have had an attendance, so there's 1,353 people that could access services. We have had an attendance of 2,153 people from Marquette Township since January of 2025 coming in for programming. That doesn't include social work. So we are talking about people coming in for pickleball, arts, silver sampler, senior skate, foot clinics, blood pressure clinics, anything of that nature. So it says 1,353, but we have 2,153 check-ins from Marquette Township residents. I thought that was great. As far as social work is concerned, this is our last quarter statistic, so just the last 3 months. This is particularly social work services. So we've had 51 clients for case management. So that means we are handling essentially anything in their household that needs to be handled to make sure they can live independently. We've had 24 clients from Marquette Township that have received direct care services, where we send a staff member into the home to make sure they have groceries, they get their Meals on Wheels, they have a clean environment, they have grab bars in their home, home injury control equipment, whatever it takes to keep them safe. We've served 14 clients in regards to financial management, making sure their bills are getting paid, their health insurance is what they need for proper coverage. We've provided outreach to 13 clients, information and assistance to 115. That health promotion number is not correct. That was just for foot clinic appointments, so individuals that came in to get their foot care done. And then we've done personal care for 3 clients. Senior Arts, this is just kind of a fun little plug. We have visual arts programming that we hire professional instructors to teach. We have our senior dance class, which I actually teach. So if you're interested, that's kind of fun. And then we have a senior theater program in partnership with Northern, and that includes us purchasing tickets for some of the theater productions in town to remove that financial barrier for older adults, as well as behind the scenes experiences with Northern's theater program. Silver Sampler, I mentioned that this is a nationally recognized outdoor recreation program. We have had 729 unduplicated participants. We've noticed, as I'm sure you have as well, a lot of people moving to the area to retire. And with that comes a lot of risk for those individuals. So our goal is to teach them the trail networks, make sure they're recreating safely, makes it easier for everybody involved if everybody is safe, and make sure that they can make those social connections they need, and why not do that in a really fun way. Next slide. Currently, the last 2 years, we were selected and invited to speak at the National Council on Aging Conference, the Age in Action Conference. This last year, we were actually invited to be one of the keynote speakers. And the goal was to promote aging well and without stigma, especially in regards to our Silver Sampler program, kind of how do we increase resiliency as we age through nature. We have that unique opportunity here, so of course we did that. Other things that were big highlights from this year, we also presented on the Michigan Association of Senior Centers Conference. I was invited to sit on the Michigan Association of Senior Centers board, so that poses us uniquely here in Marquette County. Both of our millages passed, and our tax program, that number is actually not correct anymore. Originally it was 400 plus people, but we served over 500 people last year for taxes. And then the United Way partnership with the VITA tax program increased that. So we're really happy to see their program in this area, and then we were able to expand our program as well. And we do not need to watch this video for time constraints today, but I encourage everybody to look it up. It is a beautiful video of the area. It's also on the city website, but if you go to YouTube and you just type in the City of Marquette Senior Center, this video will come up, and I encourage everyone to watch it. I'd like to, you can hopefully skip over that. Okay, great. I'd like to please open it up to any questions that anybody has for me.
So we did include your August calendar.
Great.
Packet. So
Yes.
that's good. So if you get that to me, the end of the month, we can put it in the first
Perfect.
meeting packet. And I'm wondering if you're working with SAIL too. I'm guessing you would. Makes sense for.
We actually have a bike clinic planned with SAIL on September 17th for individuals living with Parkinson's or other mobility, constraints. We have a bike clinic partnered with them to do adaptive biking. So, yeah. That's
Any other questions from Marie? Good information.
I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
All good information we wouldn't normally get. Okay, Ernie Johnson. Since he's a past treasurer, you can assume that he's watching the finances of the state. So Ernie's been to...
Ernie Johnson, 1960 West Fair and that, and reason I'm here is because I happened to attend a meeting and I talked to Lynn about it and that. And it had to do with personal property taxes at the Holiday Inn. Curiosity, I said I was going to go over and find out, listen to it and that. I didn't find a lot of information, but it generated a tremendous amount of questions for myself in that. It started out by this individual talking about this individual with a farm's going to lose his property because of taxes. Home's going to be lose that, and went on from there continually and that. And listening to her talk and that, she didn't have a lot of data, but I came away is that she didn't want to pay taxes for any reason. So that's why they went after it, what she's doing in that. So, like I said, I attended a Holiday Inn. That's been 4 or 5 weeks ago and that. I didn't think too much of it, I got thinking about it, and turning over my mind during the day, at night, and everything else. The more I thought about it, the more questions came to my mind all the time. What do you mean by eliminating property taxes for both personal and business and that? What do you really mean by that? What would be involved? I think you have to think about the sequence of events that will happen once you do that and that. And I said, I'm going to think about that in this terms, using my own vision and sequence of events and that. If they happen to attain enough signatures to put it on the ballot, and the ballot happened to be a year from now, in November of 26, what if it passes? What happens then? You have to stop and think, what would be involved if passed? All the government entities in the state would be finalizing their budgets or have finalized their budgets for that year. That's out the window because you have no taxes coming in. The treasurer's ready to put out the tax statements for all the residents. Forget that. There's no taxes to collect. So what does that mean? You have to start thinking about how you're going to fund your local entities and that. And that's only one part of that. So how do you pay your bills? How do you pay your employees? How do you pay their bonds and that? So as you're talking about that, then you also, on the election, you also have the election of state legislators, brand new ones, those have been re-elected in that. They have to then figure out the committee assignments, how it's going to affect the state. They're working on that because they don't know where to go either. They don't have any dollars coming in. There's no dollars coming in. And how do you look to the future to meet all the bills and everything else that's happening in the state? Then you have to look at what we have in, I'm taking just the township. If you look at your tax bills, what's on your tax bills? Most of the people don't look at it. They just look at how much they have to pay. And they don't go any further than that. But you start looking at school operating services, heritage, and the township operating costs, the road costs. The biggest thing is Act 33 for fire department. There's no money coming in. What happens to your fire department? They don't exist. There's no money doing that. Well, these are the things you have to start looking at. And the legislature, I don't have much faith in them trying to come up with something to pass money down to the municipalities throughout the state and that. So they're gonna have their own problems in the state. So what does that mean? They're gonna have to figure out how to do it. They're gonna have to come up with some kind of formula. What's that formula gonna look like? Are they gonna go by the population? If they go by population, north of Traverse City, we're out of the ballgame, people. Population is down in Detroit, southeastern Michigan, that area. That's where they're at, population. That's where the legislators come from. So what's gonna happen then? They come up with a formula of some type, whatever it is. Both houses have to pass it, the governor has to sign it. If someone doesn't like it, they end up in court. Then what? Court looks at it and they make some adjustments, sends it back. So the legislature then has to go through and do the modifications.
Good boy.
And they pass it again to the House and the governor signs it. Another group comes up and says, I'm being discriminated against, so I'm gonna take it back to court. And ends up in the state Supreme Court. Where are you at? You got no tax money coming in, none whatsoever. So where are you at? You're looking at whatever dollars you had set aside for whatever reason. And that money's just been burnt through. Even the state, they have the rainy day fund. If you're talking months on end, that rainy day fund is gone and that. So what's happened overall? So you have to figure out what's going to happen to you personally if this happens to pass. Where's it going to leave you? What's going to happen in that? My personal feeling is it's going to be a major financial hit for the state of Michigan. What does that mean? If there's no taxes coming in, you've got no services at all. And look at the county. County gets no money for plowing roads during the winter. MDOT gets no money for that. You got no money for the prisons, you got no money for the schools, you got no money for anything. So what's going to happen to all this stuff? So these are the things you have to think about. What they're looking at is page 1. No personal property tax, no taxes at all. They're not looking at what's on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 afterwards, what's going to happen to that. So these are things that what bothered me a lot, and that's why I'm kind of talking here from what Lynn said, is trying to make people to start thinking of what's on pages 2 through 7 through 8 afterwards. If this happens to pass, where you're at. Because there's going to be no money. You have enough money to finish out the year, and maybe some for you that you've set aside, but other than that, you're going to burn through that real quick. And if you don't pay for your employees, and if you don't have dollars for from the tax fund, you don't need the assessors. You don't need the other people who support the assessors, and those positions are gone all the way down the line. It's just the start of everything. So I'm asking you to think about that when they start talking about what the effect it's going to be on it. It sounds great. There's no question about that. It sounds great. You don't pay taxes. But what are you losing in the meantime? If you can come up with another way of doing it, I think it would be fantastic. But no one has stepped forward with another way of generating funds to operate the state of Michigan and all the municipalities in the state of Michigan and that. So it has bothered me for what, 3-4 weeks now trying to come up with something, and I can't come up with anything. You've got some information that they handed out, that little card. You look at that. That will be interesting if you can figure it out. I've been trying to look at that for 3 weeks trying to figure it out and that. And I have not come up with a way to do it. It's a flow chart, and it's a major flow chart of where they want to move money from one end to the other. And when you're talking about moving money, the legislature has passed laws to generate revenue in certain items. Well, they're going to have to pass laws now to take that money and put it someplace else. So you get new laws, everything else. So it's not as simple as people think. I'm hoping I make myself understood, but if you look at your tax bills, find out where the money goes. If there's no taxes, those entities don't get money. No one does, including yourselves here in the township and that. Like I said, the fire department, Act $33, they're gone. And everything else to that at the same time. So how you operate, I don't know. But they're trying to make it as something that can be done very easily in that. It's not going to be done very easily. It's going to be a financial crisis for the state of Michigan if it passes in that, because there's nothing on the boards to figure out how to pay for anything at this point in time. So all I can say is, if you hear about it, start asking questions, start thinking about what's involved in that. That's the best I can do. So Lynn said, I'll answer any questions if possible, but I don't have the answers. I'm just trying to tell you my thoughts from looking at it in the last 3 to 4 weeks, and that has bothered me continually in that. Because I figure that I've been on the treasurer long enough and the township board long enough to know the dollars have to be there, otherwise you don't exist at all. So all I can say is you have to think about it, and if people talk about it, start asking questions. Where's the money coming from to do it? I don't care what they say, what this lady says. There's no way they're going to be able to transfer money to pay all the bills and handle everything that's needed in all the municipalities in the state and that. So I'll answer any questions if I can, but I don't know if I have any answers at this point in time. So I'm just hoping I make you start thinking about some of this stuff, overall on that too. So
This is the flow chart.
yeah, that's the flow chart and that. Take a look at it. Start finding out.
I can't follow it.
I've been looking at it for 2 or 3 weeks now, trying to figure out where it all goes in that. And I have not come up with anything, and I'm used to working with flow charts. I've written a lot of flow charts, and this is out of my realm completely in that too. So, but
Any questions? Want to try?
Ernie, who's introducing this?
they're trying to get it through a ballot proposal. There's a lady that is out there talking about everything. She's on TV, she's all over in that, they're trying to get them to sign it and that. And it's a Macbeth Swan. She's downstate in that. So, like I say, my personal feeling is after listening that she didn't want to pay taxes. And that, so, and there was another legislature down in the southern part of Michigan who's running and using that as a gimmick to get votes. I'm against property taxes. And no idea what's going to happen if that does pass and that. So I have no idea.
They don't realize what it funds. Like you said on the tax bill, whether it's the senior center, Heritage Trail, 911, fire department, us.
Yeah, everything.
Our millages, our road millages, what else?
All I can say is look at your tax bills and all the items that the township collects money for. And that money is just a flow through to all these entities and that. Where do they go? They don't have slush funds. They don't have a lot of money behind them to operate.
Yeah, she said we would have to operate on our slush funds. And
yeah, we have to operate on the slush funds. And I kind of laughed in that.
Slush fund? I don't think so. Do we, treasurer?
No, it's interesting to hear all this. So I'm just trying to bring it up to you and let you start thinking about it, and hopefully you're looking at the first page and you start turning it and look at everything else going within that too. So hopefully that you start doing a little research yourself in that too. So I'll leave it at that.
Sounds pretty crazy to me.
Thanks, Ernie. Appreciate the information.
Okay.
Nice, but
Gotta come from somewhere. Thanks, Ernie.
thank you, Ernie.
All right. Okay, fire department, chief. You're not gonna have any tax money, so. I'm being cynical, I'm sorry. I should be.
I'll be brief also. Like the lady said, I doubt everybody's here to listen to the fire department report, but I will be brief. Like I said, you do have my written report, so I'm just going to go over a few of the highlights. And the only reason I bring up, I'm going to talk about training real quick, is we did do, in July, we did our wildland rescue training, and we did acquire a new board and wheel, which is 75% lighter than our old stuff was. So the guys are no longer exhausted when they get to the top of the hill to have to try and bring people down, and we did get to use that in a recent wildland rescue. We also did get to train, you know, we're talking about training with our neighbors. Last month, we also did train with our neighbors to the south, Chocolate, Sands, and Scandia, West Branch. I will tell you, medical calls, percentage-wise, are down slightly. They're down to 68%. Usually we average around 78, 80% of our calls are medical. We did have one structure fire in the township. No injuries to firefighters. One employee at the store was had some minor burns. We did have 3 motor vehicle accidents with injuries. And that wildland rescue, we didn't get to use it on this one, but we did have another wildland rescue at Hidden Beach this year, last month, and we were assisted by Marquette Township and Marquette Special Ops. It's pretty steep. I don't know how many people have been there, but it's pretty steep, and to get the patient out would be quite labor intensive. So the Special Ops comes with their boat, and they extricate them that way to the upper harbor to the ambulance, and that works out real well. It can be done. If the waves are heavy, we can do it. But it's nice having them available if needed. Guys did participate in the 4th of July parade and the fireman races on the 4th. They also, I think it was for the Special Olympics, the torch raiser. I think MSP and sponsors it at the Texas Roadhouse. The guys did attend that as a static display. All apparatus was pump tested in July, and very pleased to announce they all passed. The new ambulance is almost ready for the state inspection. Basically, we're just waiting on some paperwork, hopefully, that we just, I know, and I did put, I think in my report it said this month. I'm still hoping, but I don't know. And Texas Roadhouse did offer, we've worked with them over a few things over the last year, I guess. They're gonna sponsor August 31st, the afternoon lunch, or from 11 to 3, 10% of their proceeds will go, the guys are gonna go up there and do a static display, and it'll be for, actually wildland rescue. Some of our gear's getting pretty old, needs to be replaced. I think, you know, we did replace the wheel and the basket, which made things a lot lighter. Boy, how the times have changed compared to the old days. Like I said, some of us are getting a little bit older and carrying that stuff up the hill. When we get up there, we're too tired to bring the people down, so it's worked out well.
So what was that date?
August 31st, from 11 to 3. Yep. Yeah, so if you're there, 10% of the proceeds. Yeah.
Patrons go and eat between 11 and 3, tell them it's for the Township Fire Department, and we get a percentage of whatever the
Correct.
sales.
Yep. Yeah, it's worked out real well. They've been real good to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for Dan?
Nope. All right.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Public Works, Lenny?
Hello, everyone. My report be really quick here too. Just starting with wastewater. Our staff has been prepping for the new Bancroft lift station generator. As from a past meetings there, our generator had failed there at Bancroft and we had to get a new one. So we're still in the process of waiting for the new one to be delivered. In the meantime, we're disconnecting the old one and we're going to be forming up a new pedestal for the new generator when it comes. That way we can just kind of get it in there and get it ready to go. Our US 41 lift station pumps were pulled and cleaned. We have also cleaned the other lift station wet wells. Grease and flushable wipes have been a little bit of a problem here again. So we're always busy cleaning those up and even our sewers up. We actually just recently we had a grease removal from a service line. We didn't do the removal. They had a private contractor do it, but we had to be present. If you've seen us out there on the highway, they weren't fishing for smelt with the big smelt net. They were actually fishing for grease down in the wet well, or the manhole. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we have to deal with on a daily or at least a weekly basis, removing grease and responding to things like plugged service lines and stuff like that. We also had the low-level float failed at the Bancroft lift station. It is repaired now. That was actually a little bit of a chore because the conduits and everything are underneath the concrete, so they have a hard time fishing that wire back through and getting it there. It was actually the low level, but we also have something that's called a low level, and we have what we call like a probe in there. So we have kind of three different types of alarms, levels of alarms that if one fails, we also have backup. Water, we have ongoing mistake requests, so those are kind of still coming in fast and furious. We're pretty much do those every day, so you'll see the guys will be out there marking stuff. So we always have at least 5 to 6 mistakes every day, and that's just an ongoing thing. We're coordinating with BACO on the utility relocation for the new VA center. So that project is ongoing. So they have been working on the water and the sewer. So we're over there every day, keeping at least an eye on our portion of it. And that is ongoing, and hopefully that'll be done pretty soon. We've also been doing, as time allows, valve locating, especially curb box locating, cleaning and exercising. So that's another thing that we do on an ongoing basis. We go around and just make sure we know where everything's at, make sure that everything that is still there that's supposed to be there, because a lot of times things get ripped out and we don't know about it. And we make sure everything works, so in the event that we need it. Building and grounds, they've been doing a fantastic job they did a fantastic job at the Lionsfield area for community days. I believe Andy was there all day, and we had a couple of other people who were there also helping on and off through the day. We've been doing routine cleaning, mowing, and maintenance at the various township properties, so that's kind of an ongoing thing that we do. They've been working on at least some stuff where the utility boxes for the office. They got a new one of those put up there today, fixed that because that was kind of looking rough and breaking down. It's white, so I think they're going to paint it more of a color that's kind of goes with the color of the office right now. We've also installed information boards at both Lionsfield Pavilion and Ice Rink buildings, so that's kind of where we're going to try to keep some up-to-date information about the activities and things going on at those two facilities. We know a lot of people maybe are not on Facebook or not on our website, and they like to see it in person. So we're going to try to keep those both of those information boards updated with current information. One other thing that I didn't have on this report was about our culvert project. That's for the non-point source grant that we had received. It's kind of been an ongoing thing here for the last few years. We're finally getting close to the finish line. Right now, we are scheduled for a start date of late August, maybe even early September, depending on when parts and culverts and everything come in. So we're looking at starting the Norwood culvert in late August, Erie, and then Huron. So there is bad news that we did not have enough funding to do all the culverts. But the good news is that Eagle helped us find a lot of extra money to at least get these 3 culverts done. Which we really thank them because the prices came in astronomically high. And we're also going to be looking at maybe in the next year or so trying to complete the other culverts of this project out. So we're going to be working on that. But anyhow, those projects will be starting here later this month. And that's all I have for now.
Lenny, tell me those 3 culverts again. Norwood? So
it's going to be Norwood, Erie, and Huron. And that's part of the backyard. Is that, I can't remember, John, I always get around Backyard Creek?
Backyard Creek.
Yep.
And the 4th culvert would have been on Montgomery. And that's actually the culvert that instigated this project, and it's not getting done with the current funding, unfortunately.
Okay. Any questions for Lenny? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, planning, I can read real quick for our planning and zoning administrator. At their Wednesday, August 13th meeting, the Planning Commission approved a proposed golf simulator recreation infill development to be located at 1665 Commerce Drive. A motion was made by Linda Winslow and supported by Leanna Kashmarsky and supported unanimously with Chairperson Johnson excused to approve the project as presented. The next one is staff received notice that a proposed site plan for a new car wash infill development at the former Jasmine Restaurant Queen City Burger property along US 41 would be submitted prior to the end of the month. The third one is the Planning Commission and staff continued discussion on residential animal keeping and wetland zoning provisions, although no formal action has been taken. Fourth one is the master plan update continues to move along. Staff has reviewed additional draft sections of the plan and has provided commentary back to the consultant. And lastly, staff planner Eric Powers is on paternity leave for 6 weeks. As a result of his absence, Jason has been busy with residential permitting, various email and phone inquiries, and general day-to-day activities. All that's in the packet. Okay, attorney report.
Well, a few of the things that have crossed my desk in the last month since I talked to you last, we every so many years have to write off uncollectible delinquent personal property taxes. And in Marquette Township, the treasurer is especially diligent. That's not a very big job usually. I think the last time we did that was about 9 years ago. You're allowed to do it every 6 years. And generally what that involves is businesses that just no longer exist. And it involves only personal property taxes, because real property taxes are sent to the county for collection after they become delinquent. Personal property taxes are required to be collected by the township. And there were just a handful that have in essentially the last decade that were uncollectible. The total amount was minimal, but those need to be removed to clean up the tax roll. And that was done without incident or drama. We have a potential conditional rezoning violation in the township that the zoning administrator has been in contact with me to discuss. He's in the process of gathering a little bit more information before we follow up on that one. Also some consultation on the best mechanism for enforcement of a property maintenance problem that the township has cleaned up in the past, and it keeps coming back as a continuation of the same problem. So something will be happening on that, I'm thinking in the next week or so. There's also reviewed some documents. There's one of the cellular providers that we rent tower space to on the Cox water tank wants to replace and add some equipment. Took a look at that proposal. There's nothing startling about what they're proposing. It's relatively small pieces of equipment. The tank would certainly support that, and there's a study that they've submitted that shows that. The question is, are they going to increase the rent they pay because of the additional equipment that's coming on board? Keeping in mind that those are very, very long leases. Usually, I think this one was for about 35 years when it commenced, plus or minus 11 years ago. So it still has a ways to go, and those increases, while there are increases every 5 years, don't tend to keep up with the inflation rate all the time. So if we can eke out a little bit more rent money with the equipment replacement, we should do that. I've been involved in ongoing developments with the Renovari proposal, including the likely evaluation of a continuation of the project, even in the absence of the TIF proposal. And I'm sure I'm overlooking something or another, but that's some of the more time-consuming things that were on my schedule for the last month.
Okay, any questions for Roger? Okay, thank you. Community linking. Excuse me. Sherry's in the audience. Sherry spoke last month. I won't remember if I told you. It was in my notes, but Bob Hendrickson called her from the Heritage Trail, and they talked about the signage. She was questioning whether the trail was just for bikers or walkers or whoever. So we did make that connection. There was a meeting. We did talk here too about the Solid Waste Authority wanting to add a $10 a year fee. And tomorrow morning, some of the county supervisors, some of the supervisors and managers in the county and city involved, 3 cities, are invited to a meeting to discuss this and see where this is going. The meeting right before this was the Solid Waste Authority. I'm not going to go into what I said and what Gary said and what Darlene said, but we are trying to explain to them that if you have a problem with quantity of trying to get product to recycle, throwing $10 at it is not going to make a difference. It's not going to increase the quantity. So that's going to be part of the discussion tomorrow, and then we hope to bring that back to the County Township Association, who then in turn can talk to the Solid Waste Authority and maybe come up with a plan, or at least some suggestions. Tomorrow I'm off to Escanaba to talk to the materials management plan that we've been working with. That also involves 6 counties in the central region bringing recycling to the area, into our landfill, and letting them, I should say, it's not going to go in the landfill, but letting our Recycle 906 handle the distribution and sale. So the Materials Management Committee has put together a survey that they hope to send, and I don't know how they're going to get it out yet, to individuals, and then to haulers, and then to municipalities. So we've got questions, and we're supposed to go over those tomorrow and see. I don't know what the plan is. We'll have to see. QPAD is orchestrating that group. So we'll see what they decide how they want to do this. I've spent a lot of time with assessing lately. Some of the questions we might look at later in 8A could be answered from the assessing standpoint, so I got some information from them. And they would like, you're aware that the assessor usually comes 3 or 4 times a year and does a report for us. They'd like to have an hour or so of work session, and so that they've got an hour rather than 10 or 15 minutes. And they want to show you some actual, how the state laws have changed and what the impact is to their job and the effect on the budget. So I told them I'd talk to you guys about it, see what you think, if you want to try to do that next month maybe, during the day, or if you care, or we can set that up maybe at the next meeting. I told her I'd ask your opinion. Does that sound okay? Just try to figure out a day that works for everybody. Okay. All right. And I did attend the county meeting last night too. That was only 37 minutes, so they just pretty much paid bills and did a few things. There was nothing earth-shattering. Anything you're hearing from the public? Anything you want to share? We have some public here that's going to share it, but if you've heard anything you want to contribute? Nope. Okay, sounds good. We can switch to policy discussion, consideration, and development. A little bit of background, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to the manager, who can tell you what has happened today. This item to consider, the Planning Commission request to reconsider the Renovari TIF, is not on the agenda because the board or the staff requested reconsideration of the denial of the TIF at our August 6th meeting. At last week's Planning Commission meeting, Commissioner Ferraro provided the commission with more information and asked that the commission request that the township board reconsider the decision to deny the TIF, which they passed 4-0 and 1 absent. However, before we decide if we're going to consider this agenda item, I'd like to have Manager Kangas fill us in, and possibly Attorney Zappa, on what's happened in the last few days. And we do have folks who want to speak on this item. You're welcome to come up now. You can come up after Manager Kangas is his chronology. It's totally up to you. Danny, you were first. Do you want to wait?
Well, I'll wait till Manager Kangas and Mr. Zappa fill us in on any recent developments. I mean, I'm very interested in that.
Okay.
Be very informative.
Okay, Rob?
Just prior to deliberation between the board.
Wait, okay. Bernie? Wait, okay. Who did I have? Christie? Is that right?
Yes, I'll wait,
Did I write it
please.
down? Okay. And Antonio? You want to wait?
Yes.
Okay. Mitch?
I'd like to go last.
Okay. Elizabeth was next.
Wait.
Wait, okay. And Jen?
I'll wait.
Wait, okay. All right, John, you have the floor.
I guess they're putting all the pressure on me.
They are. Drum roll.
I think this goes back a little bit more than a few days. In fact, it goes back to July when I missed both of your meetings. So you were absent your primary advisor, short of legal advisor. And that is part of the reason why things had to move very quickly in the last, I'm going to say, 4 weeks. When I returned from my leave, I watched the board meeting, I listened to the discussion, and I was actually a little bit surprised when I had heard that it was a 5-2 decision to vote against the 10-year TIF. That's not to say I'm going to ask you to change your mind. I think the Planning Commission has their arguments that are probably compelling enough on their own if you're inclined to consider them. But I never did make a recommendation to you. And if I did at that time, I probably would have said the developer has come a very long way from where they started to get to a 10-year TIF, and there's some sacrifices that came with it. Without a TIF, there's additional sacrifices that come with it. And those sacrifices are the number of units that can be funded, supported, such that homeowners of that working class, missing middle, whatever you want to call it, have a better chance at purchasing from an affordability perspective. MISTA funding would provide approximately $100,000 per unit in down payment assistance for 13 units, so that's 1.3 million. From what I understand, that money is still on the table. I don't know that it's guaranteed, but there's some work that needs to be done still to get it, with or without a TIF. And I believe that the developer is planning on hoping to proceed no matter what. When this project started, we were told that they have a very complicated funding stack. I've told many people in my time here that as soon as you add state or federal funding, add 5 years. They haven't had 5 years, it's been 2 years, approximately. So to get a complicated funding stack where you have to get multiple level rounds of state or federal funding, or even local in this case, and still be in the 2 to 3 year range is probably not unrealistic as far as the timeline goes. I think we can all agree that communication was a problem at times, right? We didn't know what was going on, there was no progress updates. But now that it's clear to the developer, and I should say it's not just Renovare, they're proposing a revision to the purchase agreement to include Mitch and Wildflower as, oh, this is a term that Roger would be more familiar with, tenants in common. So they would jointly be purchasing the property, Renovare and Wildflower. And we've been made aware of this in the past month or two, that Mitch was part of the equation and he was encouraged to get involved, I believe, from maybe Andrew and Antonio based on successes that he's having in Negaunee, okay? So anyway, I came back from having missed a couple of weeks in July, both of those weeks being board meeting weeks, and I apologize for that. Part of it was my own fault. Part of it was just vacation scheduling and what we were planning to do with that vacation that had to be that week. So you didn't get any advice from me, and I don't know if I would have been as clear then as I am now, because I've had a lot more hindsight to think about this. I do know that the township has had a couple of commercial TIFs. The residential TIF option is a brand-new tool. It might make some people nervous because you've never had to think about it before. We haven't considered a policy on what you think is appropriate for a residential TIF, or if it even is. Project-specific dynamics aside, I think we should be considering that once we get through this specific project. We need to look at having a policy. And staff is going to have to consider drafting that and figuring out what it looks like. And being a policy, we'll probably get our legal counsel involved too. Not that he isn't busy enough already, but anyway, if you're going to consider commercial TIFs, should you also consider residential TIFs? That's completely up to you. I thought a residential TIF of a 10-year duration was probably a really good effort on their part. But I also think no matter what, they plan on building this residential PUD in our community. So what you have to decide is how many of those 48 units you want to have some sort of subsidy on. With a 10-year TIF, you can add a subsidy to all 48 units. So then they can all be more affordable to purchase. It doesn't change the build quality. I don't think Mitch plans on building 13 units of lower quality because there's MISHDA funding involved, and then the other units are higher quality because he can sell them at market rate. They'll all be built to the same level of standard, right? It's just a matter of how much outside funding is there to help with down payment assistance. So I came back, I saw we had a concern with the project maybe being dead, but we had a final approved PUD. I reached out to them and said, where do you stand on this? And we met with them. Mitch actually came in person. Jill and Shannon were on Zoom. We had Antonio and Ann in the room, and they said, we want to continue with whatever funding sources we can get, with or without a TIF. So this goes back to how many of those units will be subsidized. Whether you like the word or not, that's the easiest way I can explain it and keep the conversation moving. But at that time, they agreed. They started working on their PUD agreement, which still needs to be done. And in the meantime, we determined that the deadline to close was on a holiday, and they requested that September 1st date be changed to September 2nd, which I think the attorney would agree is generally accepted practice, or maybe even a little more strong than accepted. It's, you can't close on a holiday or weekend. So the 2nd is the date. We received draft copies of both the PUD agreement and revised purchase agreement, which includes this tenants in common that adds Mitch to the purchase agreement. Last night, those were forwarded to Roger, and I copied Lynn on them this morning. There was some cursory review. We think the purchase agreement is probably in a 99% ready phase. That doesn't mean you have to act on it. In fact, you don't have it in front of you, so you can't today. But we could certainly consider a special meeting very soon, and if you're considering a special meeting, that might help you decide after hearing everyone tonight if you need to think more about rescinding your prior motion to make a new one or not. I'm not going to suggest what you do. I think I've just given you the safest way I can tell you what I think my recommendation should have been had I been here in July. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but it is moving fast now. They understand the urgency of the closing date. There is a new clause in the agreement that if either party fails to provide necessary documents by that closing date, there's an additional 10-day period that would kick in to get the missing documents. you can't close without everything. So we could fail to get something that's our responsibility or vice versa for whatever reason. So then you'd be looking at September 12th, whatever day that lands on, a Friday. So that's approximately 2 weeks beyond the current closing date. I think that's about all I have.
You said you thought Jill would be online.
I don't know that I
Have anything?
heard that from her. I knew Mitch was going to be here in person.
Okay. Mitch, would you want to give us some kind of an update, or do you?
I guess I can jump up there.
Yeah, please, rather than make you wait, because
Yep.
you're the one we're talking about.
Yeah, so kind of to his point with that TIF funding, kind of the conundrum is we can subsidize all units equally, or we could take that same dollar value that we're gonna have available and say instead of 13 units, we can look at the math and say that's 14 units, 15 units, 16 units, whatever. As a developer, someone in the community, I want to be able to see more people be able to afford something. So my position was, why don't we present this? In our last meeting, I said let's try to bring that in for more people. But overall, as far as the purchase agreement and the PUD is concerned, we're meeting on a weekly basis with Renovari, making sure our documents are in a row. So that PUD was initiated on our side probably 3 weeks ago after our meeting, as soon as we had a decision, or I should say I had a decision how we're moving forward. And then we had some back and forth with how to revise that PUD. So that's a little bit, that's a rush timeline internally to present that either way, but happy that we were able to get that, at least before this meeting, along with the updated purchase agreement. So a lot of ways that people structure purchase agreements or projects like this is they'll jump in a partnership that marries them into an LLC together. Not really how I like to do business. So that tenant in common keeps a very legal protection on my side in order to be completely separate but equal partners, but not locked at the horns. So that is the reasons for the tenant in common instead of just becoming a partner in Renovair Development, Marquette, Michigan. So that's a little bit of my take on, kind of what's happened and all of that. I can provide additional commentary at the end if there's any questions or anything like that.
So as far as you know, do you still have the MISHDA funding?
We believe we should have it. We do need to produce some additional documents that state that we are financially capable to close and continue with the project by Friday, which I'm just waiting for my bank to send some letters over, and we are financially capable of that.
Okay. So you could, assuming all the documents are done, you could have all your ducks in a row to start the project, and you'd be able to do at least the 13 workforce.
Correct, and our anticipated timeline is to start site work this year and start development in April if the weather allows us, kind of like I presented in the last meeting. I've taken no change to that timeline. My one concern is I realize we don't have final engineering documents, which need to get final permitting approval through Eagle. So that's the one thing that could delay our site work this fall. But Gary at Overstar has mentioned that he's willing to work until the weather won't let him. So just keep that in mind, that our local contractors are behind this project and willing to support it timeline-wise as well.
But you don't need to have that for the closing.
I do not need that for closing. Just kind of being transparent with the construction timeline, what delay may occur that I'm aware of and want to make sure that you guys are aware of too. Because that could mean site work starts in April, buildings don't get started till probably June if that were to be the case. But we'd still have those 13 units at a minimum next year.
So the TIF wouldn't be necessary in order to have those 13?
The TIF is not necessary to have the 13 because the MISHDA funding allows it's $100,000 per unit. The TIF does allow better pricing on those potentially than where they'd be at, but it doesn't necessarily omit those 13 from being produced.
So how does, and maybe this is a Roger question, how does the question of reinstating the TIF possibly fall into this timeline of the closing? I mean, is that something that would have to happen before that?
Being transparent, it's not relevant to the closing. Would we like to see it before closing? Yes. Is it required for us to move forward with the project? No.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, we had talked about having a special meeting
Yep.
to deal with the agreement, the purchase agreement. That
Yep.
has to be dealt with.
Correct.
We need signatures on that and approval of the changes that you're making.
Yep.
So that might have to be, I don't know, Friday this week? if you
Yeah, I was
guys-
gonna request if we could do this week, it would be better
Yeah,
for my
That's
schedule.
what I was kind of hoping to. Does that work with your schedules? What's a good time?
I'm up here this week just to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row for this project, with the exception of an 11 a.m. on Thursday that I have to meet,
Okay.
so.
Randy, what's your schedule?
Afternoon on Friday'd be good.
Okay. John, how about you? Roger, do you want to be there?
I'll leave that to the board's discretion. I know that I can be there if we're talking this Friday afternoon.
So like 3:30, is that what you're thinking?
It's fine.
That
3 or
work?
5, 3 is fine, 3:30, it doesn't matter.
3:30? How about you guys? Okay.
I've got something else at 3. I'll be here.
Like 4 then?
4 is fine.
4:15. Or earlier.
Which one?
Should we try 4 then?
I can go earlier that day. I can go 2 if you want. Is 2 okay?
Is 2 better?
What day are we on?
Friday.
2 would be fine, as long as I can get to my 3 o'clock.
Is it here in town?
Yeah.
2 o'clock?
Does 2 o'clock work?
Carl?
Carl and
Not
Joe?
affecting John and I, but.
How about you guys?
Do
That's
it
okay
better.
with you?
2 o'clock works.
Yeah, I
I'm
would-
wide open all day Friday.
I would request, just from a developer side, have Roger there, just in case there are questions, we can get through them quicker and communicatively, because we are on a tight line
Okay.
to close.
Be great. I'd appreciate it anyway.
I can be there.
Okay.
How many more units are you looking at if we do the 10-year TIF?
I would have to look at the numbers again to see what it is. It's gonna be less than 10. I don't know if it's more than 5 or if it's around 5, but it's not a substantial number from I'd have to go back to my notes. I could do that while everyone else is talking and talk at the end and let you know if you'd like to know.
I'd like to know that.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay, so let's start with the motion. I'll make a motion to have a special meeting on Friday, August 22nd at 2 o'clock
Support.
to discuss the purchase agreement from Renovari. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll get that posted tonight.
Okay. So this is just the purchase agreement.
On Friday, yeah,
Right.
that's the purpose, yeah.
Right. Okay, thanks for that, Mitch.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so the agenda item then, again, this is a request from the planning commission. I was asked before, what motion are we supposed to do? There's no, you'll see by the action item, there's no recommendation for this. This is not something the board or board members or staff is bringing to us to consider. This is from the planning commission. So if this is something we want to discuss, that's up to us. Or we can just not discuss it. John?
The way it's presented in the packet is as an action item without a recommended motion because the department assigned to planning commission was absent at the time the packet needed to be completed. Jason had a early flight Friday morning and we barely had time to consider what we were doing with this memo or request from the planning commission. And I knew we couldn't afford to miss this meeting without getting it on the agenda, so I placed it there without feeling I had the authority to make a recommended motion because I have not been involved beyond watching the last planning commission meeting and hearing Commissioner Ferraro's comments. So that's why it's presented in the packet the way it is, because I didn't feel that I was justified in making a recommendation, not having been involved to the level that other staff has been.
Okay.
And just so the public knows, Clerk Rattari and Trustee Winslow were on the losing side of the previous motion, so we cannot make a motion to move forward with this because under the Roberts Rules of Order, we can't do that. So anything that happens has to be to the right of myself.
So just to explain too, if one of the five of us were to make a motion to rescind the last motion on refusing the TIF or whatever language you want to use, it would have to be seconded, and then 2/3, Randy could second it, and he would vote. 2/3 of the board, which would be 4 of us, would have to pass the motion. And
I would like to make a motion that we rescind the motion of the.
No. You have to move to reconsider the motion before you can rescind it.
no.
I think you have to talk to her.
He already did.
Robert's Rules of Order distinguishes between motions to rescind and motions to reconsider. A motion to reconsider under Robert's Rules of Order can only be brought at the same meeting that the original action was taken. So if on July, whatever date that was, you had second thoughts at that same meeting, then it would be a motion to reconsider. When you come back at a subsequent meeting, such as this, then it becomes a motion to rescind. And you're going to have 2 separate motions if the board wishes to travel this route. The first motion would have to be a motion to rescind the denial of the TIF plan that was presented. And that has to be done by a 2/3 majority, and as the supervisor correctly stated, that has to be brought by one of the people on the opposing side, essentially. And then it needs a second, and then a 2/3 majority in this instance, when you have a 6-member board tonight, is 4 people. All that does is takes your prior action off the record. So then, depending what you want to do, either way, you could decide that, well, you're going to reach the same conclusion after discussion, and you have to have either a motion to approve the TIF plan as presented or to deny the TIF plan as presented. You'll have 2 motions essentially that will be under consideration. And ironically enough, because that only has to be, the second motion has to be by a simple majority of the board, but ironically, you have only 6 people here, so that also needs a 4-person vote to pass, because 3 people isn't a majority of 6. So
That's where I was going with this. I'd like to make a motion to rescind our motion of August 6th, 2025, and with all the new information that has come about, and I just want to add, I don't know if we should make a motion tonight on the TIF, or wait until after our meeting, which I'd like to do, but to rescind this motion, I'd like to make a motion that we rescind the motion of August 6th.
July 2nd.
I'm sorry.
It was July 2nd, wasn't it, when you
No,
denied
it was
it?
just,
It's just weeks ago.
yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Excuse me.
Dan knows what he's talking
You
about.
guys are trying to screw me up here, I think.
And you seconded it?
I seconded it.
Oh, okay, we had 2 seconds. Okay, would you all like to talk before we vote? Or you wanna,
Yes, I'd like to.
you would? Okay.
Dennis Ferraro, Eagles Nest Road, and I'm here at the request of your zoning administrator, Jason McCarthy, to present the reasons why we voted to recommend to you, or to request for you to properly rescind your, we use the word reverse, but I guess it would be the same thing, to rescind your decision to deny the 10-year TIF. And of course, you must know that even though we might be critical of your decision, any criticism we express is not a personal attack on any one of you or meant to embarrass any one of you. But we felt very strongly that for economic reasons, social reasons, and political reasons, that this should be reversed. And just so we know what we're talking about, at your meeting, at the meeting where the Ann Giroux presented the TIF, the 10-year TIF to you in written form, and then very concisely summarized it orally, that TIF would have required a deferment by you of $580,000 spread over 10 years, $58,000 a year. The county was willing to sacrifice $780,000. The Brownfield Authority was losing $1.2 million in order to just capture $400,000 of that. So there was a lot of sacrifice being made there. And this would have financed, okay, 13 units at $240,000, 27, and that would have been for a household income of somewhere between $35,000 and $75,000. And in addition to those 13 for the 10-year TIF, it would have financed 27 units at $285,000, which is still way below market, and that would have been within the rule of thumb of 1/3 of your income be spent on housing. That would have been within the attainability of households of approximately 90 to 95,000. So what we're talking about here is nurses, firemen, policemen, teachers, okay? This is what was needed. So what was surprising and what really floored us all was your denial of that on the basis that, and I just to quote 3 of you or 4 of you, well, people don't like a TIF. We're talking people don't like a TIF. We don't want a TIF. Well, right from the very beginning, this board knew that a TIF would be required. On January 13, 2023, a letter of intent was sent to Jason after Jason inquired from Renovari. In that letter, it was perfectly clear that there was going to be a brownfield TIF. On January 18th, Jason and Joe Ferrari from Renovari appeared in front of you, and again, you made it very clear this was going to require a TIF. In fact, Clerk Rotari at that point said, "Hey, we've had this property ever since I've been with the township, and that was what 13, 14, 15 years, and no taxable income had been generated on it. You had 2 potential buyers that fell through, so you weren't generating any income." And as Clerk Rotari very aptly pointed out, even if it was 10 or 15 years of deferred collection, as soon as that 10 or 15 years was over, you'd start collecting taxes on an increased value. So there was no objection to the concept of the TIF by any of you. In fact, the point of contention was whether or not that gravel road should be left there. Fortunately, Trustee Everson's poignant and very apt comment that the children and grandchildren of the people that lived in this proposed housing unit should have a safe place to play and a green place to play in their backyard. So with all that said, the consensus was, okay, we're interested, let's go forward. So what happened next? Well, on April 5th of 2023, you signed an option to purchase agreement with Renovari. 2 days later, in the newspaper, in here is your smiling manager, nice picture, John, appeared. And in this article, Jason and John spoke in favor of the project. And I can read right from the language here, but it said that this would be financed with a TIF. So it was very obvious from the very beginning this was going to be a TIF. Then again, on April 3rd, 2024, the township again met with Renovari to renew the option agreement because it had expired. And this time they had dropped from a 30-year TIF to a 25-year TIF and to a 24-year TIF. And at that point, the units were much more affordable than they are currently. But you had no objection to the concept of financing this through a TIF. Absolutely not. You said, go ahead. So the Planning Commission went ahead. We had 4 meetings to consider this, 3 of them with Renovari, a work session, a pre-conceptual meeting, a preliminary PUD approval, and a final. Actually, I guess that was, we had 4 meetings with Renovari, and a final PUD approval. And at each one of these, the concept of financing, including TIF, was discussed. This was communicated to the board, and some of the board members were even present during this. So there was no surprise that this was going to have to be a TIF. I mean, at that one of the meetings, I guess was the last meeting in December, Christopher Germain, who's also a board member of the Brownfield Authority and head of the Lake Superior Community Partnership, spoke and said this is exactly this, and it was a 24-year TIF at the time. This is exactly what the township needs. This meets the target analysis that had just been completed by the county. So what happened next? On March 19th, 2025, Renovari and Andrew met with the board to explain the 24-year TIF. Mr. Zved from the Downtown Development Authority appeared, spoke for it. Antonio Adan, the housing czar from the county, spoke. And it was also pointed out at that time, as it was at the initial 2023 meeting, that the township had 2 existing TIFs. One of them, well, they both were 30-year TIFs, by the way. And one of them, for Barrel and Beam, was going to be paid off in 14 or 15 years because the business was doing well. The other one for the, was a lot, 2 lots and 1 lot wasn't sold, so that was going to take you 30 years. But anyway, there was no objection at that point by anybody on this board to the concept of a TIF. So the project went forward. And then on April 7th of 2025, because Randy Ritari, Trustee Amerson had said, hey, you know, a 24-year TIF is not going to float. So they came back. Renovari came back, revised their position, and offered a 10-year TIF. Now, again, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but Channel 6 was present at that meeting. And following the meeting, Supervisor Durant was interviewed, and she said the township is willing to give up some tax revenue for this lesser time period. So that's why it was so surprising to all of us that this TIF was going to be rejected, or was rejected, because it looked like, in fact, at the meeting where it was rejected, after Andrew gave her final presentation, I think Randy almost jumped out of his seat to say, hey, I'll get a resolution to you in a couple of days so you can bring it to the county. And she said, don't worry about it, the county commissioners are all behind this. So the county commissioners were behind this. It was going to go through. The Brownfield Authority was behind it. The land bank people were behind it. Lake Superior Community Partnership was behind it. Your planning commission was behind it, but it was turned down. So let's talk about the, then after that, you had another meeting. I believe it was there was a public hearing or a public comment, subsequent meeting, and you had people standing up asking for you to reconsider Of course, they probably should have said correctly to please rescind. You had Stephanie Jones, a respected real estate broker, and Don Florio, another respected real estate broker, give you examples of statistics and also anecdotal stories. And one of them said, the housing shortage here is dire. The other one said, the housing shortage here is desperate. Antonio and Don got up and said, you need to reconsider this and reverse your denial. Mitch Nordahl, who spoke tonight, he also came and told you that, and he and Don had a conversation in front of you in which they stated to you that as soon as these homes were built, this property would have a taxable value of $7 million, more than Lowe's. So you're going to be collecting money on this for a long time if you just defer it. $58,000 a year for 10 years would be a great investment. But let's look at the economic impact of denying it. I looked at an MEDC project. It was a larger project, but I extrapolated by dividing the number of units. And I also looked at some other online sources for what's the cost or how many jobs are generated by a 1,000-foot construction in one home. So for these 48 units, and you can check these calculations and do them yourself, would have generated between 60 and 90 direct and indirect jobs. We know that construction costs were $13.8 million. That would have been injected into the community within 2 years. Local businesses who depend on workforce housing would have been allowed to thrive and expand. And what about the lending institutions? What about the financial sector here? They would have been getting, let's see, 48 units at 6.37%. It probably was higher then, for 30 years. That's a lot of money. But what they would have done, probably, would have been to sell those mortgages at a profit to the bond market, further economic benefit and stability across the board. And then consider the 48 new families. Where would they be spending their money? Getting their drapes from Lowe's, buying their housing improvement stuff from Menards, going to Kohl's. This would have been a tremendous infusion of money into your township, which would benefit you and all of us. And this wouldn't have been bricks and mortar, but it would have been stick construction, so I guess sticks and plasterboard and concrete. And the construction costs, we know from information provided by Renovari, was $13,655,000. The sales price for all of the units was $10,915,752. That's a bargain of $3,497,000. That's a value, a discount of almost 25% you would have been given to our township residents. So we heard Mr. Kangas, but what I heard was if he would have been here, he would have recommended to you the 10-year TIF. And we heard what Mitch said, but you know, every time the year of the TIF was reduced, the price of the units went up. And you just heard from Mr. Nordahl that, yeah, okay, maybe we can still keep this 1.3 and have affordable for 13 units, but even for the 13 units, the price is going to go up from 240 higher. And the price of the other 27 units, you're going to price them right out of the missing middle for your nurses, your firemen, your police officers, and your teachers. So that's the economic impact. And then the social impact, and I see, I thought Linda Winslow was on the screen, maybe.
She was, she's
she left. Okay, well, she's spoken eloquently to you about the social impact of this, bringing new families into our community. This is what makes a community thrive, makes a community grow. This is what would be, you'd have those children and grandchildren added. This is the future. So just for $58,000 deferment of taxes for 10 years, you'd have a tremendous social impact. And then finally, the political impact. You know, we're not an isolated entity, Marquette Township. We depend on partners all around us. We share water with the city of Marquette. We have a land use agreement with the city of Marquette for Forestville. We depend on, well, let's just say, if we ever want to get a grant for something nice, like maybe improving Lions Park, or maybe a new park, we might have to go to MISTA. We might have to go to Invest UP. And you know that when Ann made her final presentation to you and then was shot down, she was already a member of Invest UP. They're going to be very wary. And also, I mean, the county's going to be sacrificed. Lake Superior Community Partnership. These partners that we need and we depend upon as we go forward as a regional force here. Okay, look at us very warily when we come to them and ask them for money. And Jason made a good point too at the meeting when we voted to rescind. He said, you know, developers want to know that once they get through the planning and zoning, that their project's going to go through. You're going to have developers being wary of investing in our community. So, in conclusion, let me borrow a word from Jason. And you're very lucky to have Jason. And Jason was totally behind this motion to ask me to rescind. He asked me, I said, oh, just show up the tape. He said, no, I want you to be there. Okay, I'll be there. Here's something he said, and I think he said it to you, and he's also said it to us. This was a legacy project. Why was it a legacy project? Well, it was a legacy project because this would have put this township in a leadership position on this important issue. We would have inspired others in the future. And this would have been a tremendous benefit for all of our residents and the welfare of all of our residents here in the township. Amen.
Thank you,
Thank
Danny.
you.
Appreciate that.
Rob Sved speaking as chair of the DDA tonight. I did prepare a written statement so that I don't veer too far off course.
Is that from the DDA board?
I am reiterating our comments from before.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, and just going over some of the background as I know it as well. So I'm here to speak in favor of the TIF for the Renovari Planned Unit Development on behalf of the Marquette Township Downtown Development Authority. First, to provide a little context for my knowledge of the project. On October 4th of 2024, at a meeting of the DDA, we were informed by Manager Kangas about the Renovari project, and that was the first time we'd heard about it. The property is within the boundaries of the DDA, so it affects the DDA's finances. We discussed some of the implications with the residential project within the DDA. We didn't take any action at that time because we had a couple other things that were happening in the township. The urgency of Venture Drive closure with the Michigan Veterans Home was one of the big things that we talked about at that meeting, because they were planning on stopping the road short and not continuing it all the way to Wright Street. A motion was made by Mike Springer and supported by Supervisor Durant to send me to the Marquette County Road Commission meeting on October 15th to express the need to maintain the safe routes to school, which runs along Venture Avenue. Unfortunately, the Michigan Veteran Home has not agreed to provide the safe routes to school as requested, nor was any consideration made for curb and gutter along the realigned Venture Drive so that it could be built in the future. At the Planning Commission meeting December 11th, 2025, Renovari was on the agenda again, and the final PUD was discussed and approved. On December 18th, 2025, the Township Board decided to schedule a work session to discuss brownfield plans. That meeting took place, or the work session, on January 6th, 2025. I attended that. And Andrew spoke about Marquette County Land Bank Authority, or from the Marquette County Land Bank Authority, and provided a lot of education on how the TIF works, because there was some concern at board level that not everybody understood how it works. At that time, I took some screenshots out of the PowerPoint that was being displayed. And at that time, it was a 30-year TIF with 5 market rate units and 40 units with down payment assistance, and 3 that would have further down payment assistance to the neighborhood of around $70,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment that was aimed towards the lower economic or socioeconomic class. At that meeting, Dennis Ferraro spoke in favor of the project, citing the need for the housing in the community. On the January 14th meeting of the DDA, we again discussed Renovari. At that meeting, a motion was passed to check with the Township Council to ensure that the project would not require any changes to the DDA boundary or structure. Council advised shortly after the meeting that the PUD would not require any changes by the DDA. DDA members were positive about the possibility of residential development that could provide housing for Township business employees. Comments about the location being in an area where the not in my backyard public opposition was very unlikely. The location being near proposed pathways also aligned with DDA priorities. At the regular meeting of the Township Board on February 19th, 2025, Renovari discussion was quite negative in nature. The stipulations of a TIF were viewed by members of the board as unacceptable. Former Treasurer Ernie Johnson spoke against the use of a TIF for any residential development. The following day, I spoke with Manager Kangas about the desire to schedule a special meeting of the DDA to discuss the TIF and Renovari. At the special DDA meeting on March 4th, 2025, Antonio, the Marquette County Housing Specialist, spoke on the need for more housing in the county per the housing report. He explained that using a TIF for housing was a new tool for residential developers in Michigan. Joe Ferrari of Renovari also spoke about the project and the complex financial aspects using private and public funding to make the project viable for the missing middle or workforce housing. Jill advised that since January, the Marquette County Land Bank and Renovari had discussed benefits, and the board, viewing a 30-year TIF as unacceptable, had come back with a 24-year TIF. A motion was made at that time by Michelle LaJoy and supported by Frank Stabile of the DDA that I make a report to the Township Board meeting, or to the next Township Board meeting, that the DDA supported the Renovari project and the proposed TIF as it was then, as a 24-year TIF. The motion was unanimous with an abstention from Supervisor Durant. On the March 5th, 2025 meeting of the Township Board, the March 15th, 2025 meeting of the Township Board was canceled due to weather, but as the chair of the DDA, I did provide a statement of the proposed TIF, or support of the proposed TIF, on the rescheduled meeting date of March 12th. At regular meetings of the DDA in April and July of this year, the Renovari project was discussed as well. New members were updated, and no action was taken to withdraw support of the project. Even provided updates, Manager Kangas provided updates informing us that the length of the TIF was decreased to 10 years, which would provide far less missing middle and workforce housing. This project is important to the DDA as it will provide housing for management level employees in the near term and substantial tax revenue when the TIF expires, and then for decades to come. And there has been a lot of talk on this board about who are the people that can afford these $200,000 homes. And I just saw an ad on Indeed today that a new gas station is going to be built in Ishpeming, West Ishpeming, I believe. They're looking for an assistant manager starting at $52,000 a year. So times have changed. $100,000 for a family is not unheard of anymore, and this fits right in with that, in the $200,000 range for a house. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Lenny, you were next, if you want to speak again, or speak.
Takes me a little bit to get up.
Okay.
That too, so. I think the biggest thing I have is, what is it that you're going to be talking about on Friday? What is it you'll be discussing? And then I think that's the biggest thing. You're having a meeting and that, and
The purchase agreement,
the purchase agreement and everything else to go along with it, I take it.
just the purchase agreement.
Just the purchase agreement, so,
Unless the board decides to add the TIF discussion to the agenda.
okay.
Special meetings have to be specific.
So my question is, I haven't changed a lot since last time. You talk about TIF. I'm very well aware of what TIF is all about. I was involved with TIF in the township here in the late 40s, early 50s, about 10 years in that, involved with that. So I have a good idea what it's all about. And that it's a lot different now than it was back then. Back then, we captured dollars from everything. Now you can't do that. So we generate a lot of dollars. The land that you're setting, this building setting on was purchased with TIP money. Venture Drive and Commerce Drive was purchased. There's a lot that was done with that dollars at that point in time. So I'm well aware of the benefits for it. But what I'm hearing is that you're talking X number of units. Now, how many units are we really talking about that TIF will be involved with? 13 units, you have talking about 48 units, and they're talking about 13 units, talking about $100,000 for what? And that. That's what I'm concerned with in that. And then the comment that I read in one of the printed literature that I got this through my son and that they will pay property taxes. They aren't going to pay property taxes to us. It goes right to the developer. Township will not see any of that dollars for whatever length of time the TIF is at. But the township must provide all the services for that group all the way for that number of years. So think about the services that are involved with it and that. So it's a different ballgame nowadays, all the way down the line to that. I have no problem with needing units in the county. We just don't have it. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think the residents of the township needs to support something like this here. And I'll be very blunt with you. Who's going to profit from this? Think about that. Who's going to be profiting from this? And that. Ask yourself the question and that. Overall, and that. Sure, you're going to have individuals moving in there, buying it and everything else, but there's profit being made all the way down the line. They may not like to hear that, but it's there and that. So you've got to think about that. So, and they say there's no increase in township resident taxes. That's true. There isn't going to be any increase in it. It's just that you're going to have to spend dollars to support that development overall and that. So that's all I have to say at this point in time, but I'll be there on Friday to see what's going on. I think nowadays going back to the TIF is, I see what's happening in the city of Marquette. I don't agree with that at all because the dollars are going to someone else and not for the residents and that. The same thing will be here. And the two entities, I was on the board when we passed that TIF for the two entities that they referred to. At the time, it sounded like, well, good thing to do. Well, things have changed. My thoughts have changed a lot too at this point in time. But as of right now, I'm not changing my thought on the TIF for this, for any length of time. It's not beneficial to the residents and that. My life here in the township is getting to the end and that, who knows how long, but I'm looking toward the future for everybody else in that too. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ernie. Christie.
I'm a veteran, stationed at K.S. Sawyer. I've lived here all my adult life, since age 18. I'm a parent of two kids that are just below late 30s and one that's over 40 now. And I know how difficult it is to get a home, and get the first home. And I also had that same issue here in Marquette County in 1986. what I'd really like to see the board consider, and as a member, as someone who lives within the township, and I've lived here in the township for 9 years, I'm a retiree. I do feel there's great value in making it, in considering the TIF. And I do agree with what our township supervisor said over the air on TV6, that a 30-year TIF sounds too long and too much of a commitment to future boards. But I do think a 10-year TIF is doable and appropriate and has value. I think it does give those people looking for a starter home a way in when they may not have one. So for those reasons, I would like the board to consider not only the rescinding, but also adding that to the agenda as a possible vote. On membership township, I'm willing to support this. I don't necessarily agree with Ernie, although I know Ernie pretty good. He hasn't figured it out yet. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Antonio? You're next, if you'd still like to speak.
Yeah, sure. I mean, thanks again for being open to this conversation. I think it's important for the Marquette Township to become a leader in this space and creating solutions for housing, whether it's utilizing the tools that are available, such as the housing TIF. What I like about this project, and I'm in full support of this project, is that there was a trajectory to show you how complex this is becoming. Started with a 30, 24-year TIF, down to 10. Okay, now we're talking. 13 units, guaranteed, built within 2 years because of the MISHDA program. In fact, the CEO of MISHDA was here last week, sitting outside having lunch with us, talking about the challenges. This makes our area look vibrant and good. I think this project has a lot of merit. Mitch was brought on as a partner. I've seen some of the construction Mitch has. Mitch and I have nerded out over conversations about how much potential there is to actually be able to create quality products in this, in other towns as well. So I think it's important to just go back to the beginning a little bit, and in the spirit of the community survey that you all did, housing is a really difficult product to make today, and you have an opportunity in front of you again to utilize those tools for the benefit of your residents. And I talked about the length of time that it takes to put these deals together. Wow, I mean, we're really trying to do that. So this is a relatively new tool that could be utilized with the housing TIF, and you've already seen some of the numbers, and that'll come back to reality. But the main thing I wanted to just highlight today is that the MISHDA grant has 3 things that it needs to show. You need to show the site control, which is, with the upcoming meeting on Friday, that'll be determined whether this purchase agreement goes through or not, right? That's number 1. So that's great. The second thing that you need to show is you need to demonstrate that you have the PUD approved. To Mitch's point about the engineering and Eagle's approval, that will come with time, but that needs to also be ready to go. And the last thing is the capital stack. So that's another thing that we already know. They need to provide proof to the state agency. The fact that the money's still on the table is a huge deal. I really wish that that this project can move forward. TIF also has an incentive that if you build within the faster you build, the faster you get the plan implemented, the faster the reimbursements comes through, and then the faster you can collect tax revenue on the back end. I mean, what a huge opportunity for this township. And my understanding is that if this project does not move forward, that money does not get redistributed throughout our central region, throughout other counties like that are participating in trying to get projects going. We have our next round of funding opportunity coming up October 1st. And there's going to be a lot of applications for a new round of funding through the Housing Community Development Fund through the state, and CDBG, which is the federal program. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to take this opportunity to reevaluate the circumstances. We brought in a new developer was brought into this equation that changes things, right? And I think you have really the power this board does to demonstrate that you want to be a player in the housing space, and I'm really excited for that opportunity. So just wanted to highlight that it does meet a lot of our goals, it has a lot of support, and I hope that the discussions can be healthy and we can move forward with some of the support. So yeah, that's all I had tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio. John, did you want to speak now?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more comment that I had forgotten to mention during my introduction. which is fresh in my mind, but somehow slipped it from the lunch webinar I watched today by Fahey Schultz. It was regarding this very tool. And I unfortunately didn't get to see the whole thing because for some reason my lunchtime today ended up being the most demanding time of the day for my time, and I only got to catch parts of it. But an interesting fact I took from it is the tool has been used elsewhere in the state, but nowhere yet has it been used on properties to be sold to homeowners. It's only been used on rental properties. So this could be, for better or worse, the first residential, single-family, owner-occupied residential TIF in the state, unless somebody else beats us there. If it happened, of course. Interesting fact I heard today. I wasn't aware of that.
Thanks for that. Mitch, do you want to talk again?
Yeah, I've just had a couple answers for you
Okay.
after I looked at stuff, so.
You were next anyway, so.
Perfect. So, kind of the question of how many more units would be able to be provided. So I do want to just make this note here that I do need to look at the cash flow analysis of this, but it would be between 4 and 7 units that could be added to that. By providing that TIF up front as a developer and me saying, I'm going to provide this discount to people up front and collect that money, I'm essentially taking a loan and taking a loss on those units that we're providing. So that's something that I'm willing to do on those 4 to 7 units that it ends up being. Basically not collect any revenue on them, pay out of pocket, use whatever cash flows from the other units that aren't, subsidized on that in order to make those units more affordable. So I'm taking that risk as a developer if we pursue that option. Very willing to do that. And then the other option, like I said, is we just take that money and spread it across all the units. The developer is always seeing cash flow as the project's continued, it sees the money back. You're basically not really making money on the project as you're building. Your money comes through that investment to the community through the TIF. So there's a lot of little nuances associated with the back end cash flow of how the hell do you run a business without any money. That's what a TIF kind of does if you kind of put yourself in those shoes. Do you go get loans? Do you get investors? What do you do? But there's a lot that really goes on and is a lot of headache as a developer to deal with a TIF as well. So I just want you guys all to be aware of what we're putting ourselves through to try to provide better price points for the community as well. The other couple notes that I had was I do want to see the final PUD reviewed as well on Friday. So if you could add a motion for that, because we did present that.
That's true.
So I want to make sure that that doesn't create an issue for closing. Kind of on his point here on the costs associated with the town, the couple notes that I do want to make with that. Probably most people aren't super aware with this. That's an HOA that's going to be established. Those are private roads, not public roads. So you don't have any road maintenance, you don't have any snow plowing, you don't have any of the normal city services that are required. You do have sewer and water, those will be part of that. But those are things that you collect fees on as you go, usage fees. Anyway, those are not part of taxes. So, and there really usually isn't any repair and maintenance of those in the first 10 years of service. I mean, it's 20, 30, 40, 50 years before you have to do that. So there really should be no additional substantial burden to the township, for taxpayer money needed to support this new development. So I want to make sure that that's also cleared because, for example, in Negaunee, we have roads that are in a TIF funded area and they are provided by the town or the city and they are pushed to public right away. They will have to plow those roads out of tax funds from other areas if that TIF funding comes back to us. That's not something that you guys have put yourself in a position of with this project, so it's actually a really good thing for the town as well. The last thing that I had was the one thing that I personally believe, this is not, I can't speak on behalf of MISHDA or anything like that. I do believe a motion to approve a TIF tonight would secure those $1.3 million funds that we have, but I cannot speak on their behalf. But that was really the reason that they started pulling out we asked for reconsideration was no TIF. So I do feel, and that deadline is the 22nd for all of our paperwork, everything, for them to make that reconsideration. So I do want to note that can't speak on their behalf, but that may be something to consider. That's, a risk for all of us to take. You don't have anything else?
Good information.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Elizabeth was next. Would you like to speak?
Elizabeth Bates, 208 Business Road, and even though you don't have the timer on, I will still read my short version instead of my long version. As Mr. Ferraro said, well, I am very encouraged by what I'm hearing tonight. Because I was very discouraged watching the board meeting of July 2nd. And most of what I wrote, and I will read it to you, is in regard to comments made by board members on July 2nd. So thank all of you. Thank you, for being on the board, because it's a lot of time and effort. I would like you to reconsider your vote regarding the TIF and regarding this entire proposal. It's been 2 years in the making with full transparency and full support of all involved, including you, but then 5 of you voted against it because this is what I heard as a member of the public watching. This is the biggest hot button issue. Constituents are dead set against using TIF. But over 80% of Marquette residents voiced the need for affordable housing. It's part of the 5-year master plan. So I guess when you make a statement like that, I would like to know who those constituents are and how many, 2, 20, 200? And do they understand anything about the cost and the benefits? I don't know if they're here tonight. I hope they are, because it's been very informative. Do they realize the 5 acres at present has no taxable value? If Renovari goes ahead, we'll have 48 new housing units. If I were a whole lot younger than I am with young children, to me, that'd be very exciting. One of you said, this has been dragging and dragging and dragging. I'm pretty tired of it personally. Well, somebody tonight said it's moving fast now. Plans are expected to be finalized, done by September 2nd. And it sounds like with the deadlines in place, it has to move fast or it's not going to move at all. Someone stated during that meeting that said this, the TIF, is the state's solution to making housing available. TIF is the tool in the toolbox that can make this happen, and then they voted against it. Watching it, that kind of blew my mind. Like, how do you make that statement and then vote against it? So, being tired of the conversation, hearing from constituents who are dead set against it, but with no explanation beyond that, deciding it's taking too long when a yes vote would put it into action, and finally voting against something that takes advantage of that tool, voting against something that takes advantage of that tool in your toolbox does not make sense. So please reconsider, please vote yes. Marquette needs affordable housing, and without it, I feel like what we are going to see are more high-end condos. Right now, the newest condos out there start at $400,000. I don't know who's going to live there. And very interesting, this is today's Mining Journal, And there's an interesting article, I'm not gonna read the whole article. Coalition of Michigan legislative local leaders pitch 160 million project to build new rehab old homes. And they say in here it's about empowering local decision makers, I think that's all of you, to meet the unique housing needs of their communities and ensuring they have the resources and flexibility to get the job done. And they make a few comments about this, but to me what that says is taking advantage of this and going for it. And as someone said at the July 2nd meeting, being a model for other cities to follow. So thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Elizabeth, appreciate that. We have one more speaker.
I'll be quick.
I'm
I'm Jen Hill, and I live at 503 Craig Street in the city of Marquette, former state representative, and it was my honor to serve the 109th District, including Marquette Township, from 2023 to 2024, when the legislature voted in favor of the TIF that you are considering today. And I just want to say that there was a lot of discussion, again, also at the state legislator level, about moving this from a commercial to a residential. That was definitely a concern. And I hear those concerns about what are we are coming into a market that we've never been in before, that seems, that's committing our local governments in a way that we never have before around private property, right, honestly, and people owning, and how are we going to, at the same time, meet this enormous demand for housing? That is just, overwhelmingly the concern that I would hear about, and when I was serving, and when I was a Marquette City Commissioner, I actually I have voted for housing projects and I voted against housing projects. There were housing projects that I felt were not right for the community, and others that I did vote for. So it is a challenging, and you're taking on that difficult and challenging decision, and I appreciate that very much. But I had people still call me, and so I was contacted about this happening here in the township, and so I just wanted to say that this legislature passed this ability to have tax increment financing on residential properties because of the enormous need that we have for residential housing. And I'm just going to close with a personal story. On August 4th, my husband was walking to the community garden we have out behind Moosewood, and he fell on the cement and gave himself a concussion, broke his glasses. There was blood. It was not pretty. We get to the hospital. This is a Monday afternoon, and there are people already in the hallway in gurneys. There weren't enough people to take care of who was sitting in the ER. We need housing for nurses. We need housing for teachers and firefighters. We had to, luckily he had a concussion. He's fine now, but and the staff that showed, of course, that did the work. But we waited. The people that are waiting, we need housing. This is cutting us off from having the community we could be. And I talking to the nurses. He ended up having to spend the night for observation, and there are one nurse for 12 patients right now at the hospital. We need to be doing more. So I hope that I'd be happy to talk more about the TIF and what we talked about at the legislative level, if that's at all helpful. I really appreciate the clarity that the developers bring. I've also had developers come and talk to us. You're speaking plain English, and I really appreciate that, and all your hard work. So just thank you, and I hope we can find a way to get more housing for nurses. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. Can we take a pause if we have a motion on the floor, Roger? Is there any problem with that?
No problem.
Okay. Let's take 10 minutes. We need the gavel.
We'll be back. So 7:53, we're back.
Okay. Good. So that's everybody who wanted to speak. The special meeting, just to reiterate a little bit, the special meeting called for Friday is to discuss the purchase agreement, and consider that. And Mitch has asked that we do the PUD agreement, which makes total sense. They're both documents for us to consider, so you'll get copies of those emailed to you so that you can have them ahead of time, because they're lengthy documents. If the board, we have a motion on the floor to rescind right now the request of the TIF on the Meadowberry Park project. We've heard public comment. Does the board want to say anything? Or John or Roger? Based on what you heard, or comments, or just want to give you an opportunity. I can call the question, and again, this is just on rescinding.
I guess I would like to answer the question. The question was, why did our position change after the fact that, after time went on? Well, as this project has gotten more and more publicity, it's been on the news, it's been in the paper, that's why people have been coming to us as trustees saying, don't do the TIF. Don't do the TIF. They're against the TIF. And whether that's lack of knowledge about what it is, or the fact is that they just don't want to subsidize a project, I don't know, but that's the reality of it. And our job as trustees is to listen to our voters, our constituents. And I have had numerous, somebody said, how many? I would say upwards of 25 to 30 have come to me, and I've never had anybody come to me with anything else except for maybe, when are they picking up the garbage? You know, I mean, because basically people don't really confront you on anything, but this has been a hot button issue, the TIF. So that's where it came from, publicity.
I've had 4 calls this week saying, don't do this, don't make me pay for somebody else's house. There was a statement of one of the women. There are reasons that we voted no. We all have our reasons. Some of them you don't say in public, but you may know things. So, I don't know. But for right now, this is what our consideration is whether we want to rescind the motion to reject the TIF. Anything else? Roll call vote, Randy.
Okay, trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee Leighton,
Yes.
trustee Kidda,
No.
treasurer Rickauer,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1, or 5-1, with 1 absent.
Okay, so we're meeting Friday at 2 to talk about those 2 documents. Do we need to amend the motion to include the PUD agreement?
It should be a separate motion. We already finished the
Okay.
one. So the correct motion would be to add the PUD agreement to the special meeting agenda on Friday at 2 o'clock on the 22nd.
Okay, John?
I just want to state on behalf of myself and your legal counsel that you can put it on the agenda, but we can't guarantee it'll be ready by then. We just haven't had enough time to really properly vet that document,
The PUD agreement?
the PUD agreement. And I think it's okay to put it on there in case it is ready. Things are moving fast, as I stated earlier, but I guess we'll see if it's ready for your consideration or not.
Well, the purchase agreement will be.
The purchase agreement absolutely will be. The PUD agreement, we will get that to an approvable state as soon as reasonably possible with any back and forth that has to happen. Both of those documents were received late yesterday, just so everyone's aware. So we want to make sure that it's truly ready before recommending approval.
Do you have a hand up, Roger?
Not necessarily. I can say that the purchase, I'll reiterate, the purchase agreement is essentially ready now, except to correct numerous grammatical things when it was changed from purchaser to purchasers. There are is's and are's to make it flow more fluently that need to be changed, but substantively, the purchase agreement is intact. There's very little.
Will you get rid of the red line for the board, or will they get the
Yes, I had
second version
forwarded both a red line, I believe.
of your version, but not of the one we got last night?
The one that we got last night was not a red line. At least the one I got wasn't a red line.
Oh, yeah, it was red and.
Oh, because I had to go through it and try to go line by line to figure out, make sure there weren't other changes that were being overlooked, so.
Yeah, it was.
But yes, it should be presented in both a red line and a non-red line
Okay.
version. I can tell you that I've glanced at the PUD agreement that I first saw this morning, and that's going to need some significant reworking. And I can tell you that part of that is there are two schools of thought on whether a planned unit development is considered a zoning use or a zoning district. Marquette Township has traditionally treated that as strictly a zoning use. It's much more expedient to push through that way, just as a gas station or a grocery store is a use, a zoning use. This document treats it as a zoning district, which would require an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and it's a comprehensive project of having public hearings. Marquette Township has traditionally avoided that interpretation of planned unit developments, so they can be moved forward more quickly, but that means that this agreement is going to have to be revised.
Okay.
And I would say from our end, that shouldn't be an issue to probably swap it. It's where jurisdictions it came from, right?
Sure.
That shouldn't be an issue for us to expeditiously work with him by Friday.
Okay.
That will actually hasten things if we interpret it in that fashion.
Okay.
And not just the document, but the entire process.
Makes sense. Okay, we'll figure that out then to get that to them.
So my question is when does the TIF come
I
up?
was
I
just
guess?
gonna say, do we wanna add the TIF to discussion to the agenda?
Yeah, so I will make a motion to add the PUD agreement and the 10-year TIF to the special meeting agenda.
Support. For discussion purposes.
Okay. Now remember that the closing is the second and the next board meeting is the third. So if we're gonna, unless we would call another special meeting, if we have that discussion Friday, that would be our last opportunity to do it before the closing. Although Mitch said that the TIF doesn't have to be determined before the closing. So it could be a discussion on the third agenda.
Or
My
you
opinion
could-
is it solidifies the initial funding, but I can't speak on it
Sure.
right now.
John?
Or you could wait to have the closing until after that next agenda, or that next regular meeting too, to avoid another special meeting, just as an option. Another day or two doesn't necessarily hurt the closing and may even be needed for both sides to get all of the documents presented anyway. But hopefully, given the current urgency to meet that next critical deadline, it's demonstrated that this project is moving forward.
Well, as John mentioned, there is a clause in the new purchase agreement that says there can be a 10-day extension if either party doesn't have all the documents. I may not be available during that time, depending on when that 10 days starts or ends, or if it is 10 or 4 days. So we kind of need to decide it for the, what we said, Friday the 12th. So, motion and support to add the TIF to the discussion on Friday.
And the PUD agreement.
And, yeah.
Friday, I'm limited on time, but that, I think there'd be still a majority. As long as everybody else is in, make it.
Okay, Linda may be back, I don't know. Questions? Comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Friday at 2. Purchase agreement.
Be 3 items.
Okay, and we don't have any committee updates, unless anything from the rec committee last night?
There's definitely some things to talk about. I would say, first, they gave us their priorities for the CIP. One of them remains the roof over the ice rink, which we know is an expensive project that's going to require some grant funding of some sort. I don't think I can give you an honest answer of what that number would be, but it's going to be more expensive than we think it's going to be. I mean, what have we been talking about all night? Construction costs, right? A non-motorized facility along Fair Avenue from the city to Ontario, which I think is a great idea. There's going to be some challenges with that one as well, and it's, again, not going to be affordable. But there are multiple funding opportunities there, whether it's the DNR trust fund or Safe Routes to School, those kinds of things. The third one was some landscaping around Lions Field, specifically in the vicinity of the paddle court. And the walkway there is getting pretty rolly, let's say. The transition from the walkway to the court itself is basically turning into dirt. It was never really planned out properly, and that all drains towards the court, and there's no way for the water to get off the court, so there's some cleanup that would have to happen around the edges. I think that's probably an affordable short-term project while we figure out how to fund those other big ones. But I will also say the Fair Avenue project might be a little more urgent than we realize, because the Road Commission has indicated that will be the next small urban funded project in the township. So we probably need to get with them fairly quickly just to gauge whether or not it's realistic with this next project, or if it's gonna have to be done completely separate. And I'm thinking it's more the latter because of that whole add a grant, add 5 years, right? So.
Okay. That's a good update. And we're back to public comment. Anybody wanna share a few words?
I would, my head is spinning. I'm Dina Svet, 1420 Cox Avenue. This whole project for the Renovari project, I just keep thinking, how are we gonna grow as a community if we don't have housing? And there's no housing, right? You've heard from the realtors, you've heard from everybody that can tell you there's no housing to be had. So how do you grow? If you like to go have your coffee at Starbucks and buy your $8 coffee, who's gonna work there in the future if we don't have people that wanna come here to have children to work at Starbucks? Who's gonna be our waitresses at our restaurants? Who's gonna do the dishes? Like, we need workforce labor to live the lives that we have, and that's why we live here. We love it here. If we have all the earnings and we don't grow, then what? Nothing. We need housing for people to move here. And when people tell you that their tax dollars are funding this project, I sure hope you explain that that's not true. I mean, my tax dollars aren't paying for this project, and I live in the township. And where I work, I can tell you that we recruit talented people to come here to interview, and they refuse because they cannot find housing. We lose more talent because of housing every day. I have a teacher that works at the high school who is older than me, so I'm not talking young, lives with her father because she can't afford a house in Marquette. We need this income housing in this area, and why wouldn't we want to be a leader and show other people that you can build houses, use the resources that we have, get the funding, use the TIF. 10 years, really? I mean, that'll go by fast. I mean, $58,000 a year for 10 years, I think it's worth it, in my opinion, to have housing that somebody can come in and afford to buy a house and live and work here. Like Jen Hill said, the hospital needs nurses. Where are they gonna live? And it just befuddles me that this is an issue. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else wish to speak?
Ernie's getting up in
Your time don't start till you start talking.
So I just think before I talk?
Yes.
No, nothing what we're talking about. Part of it, I want to apologize to Roger, I jumped in too quick on that. So, once he said it, I realized what it was all about. Too many years not being in here and then not being here at the same time in that. But it's interesting to sit out in the audience and not up here, there where you people are. So it's fun that way, because I can go home and not worry about it until if I decide to come back Friday or not, and see what happens in that. And I don't have to worry about all the printed documents coming my way and that big stack of paper I'm going to end up getting and that. So, yeah. So, but I thank you for having it, and it's not an enjoyable job at times because you have to make some very, very hard decisions as to what's going to happen immediately or into the future and that, and what's going to affect the whole community as a whole and that. I've been here over 50 years. I've seen a lot of things happen here. I've been involved with a lot. I believe in the township. I believe in what's going on in the township and that. And the future is here and that. And there's some very hard decisions have been made. It's going to be more hard decisions in the future is going to have to be made too. And that, how it's all going to go. As far as housing, no matter what anyone does, there's not going to be enough housing, enough affordable housing in the area, period, and that. The jobs just aren't there to generate the revenue that they need to afford the housing and that. Maybe because I was involved with a lot of different items, a lot of different jobs and companies as to what they pay and that. They pay a lot, but it's still difficult to justify the costs and that. So all I can say is you're going to have to do the best job you can and let the chips fall where they may and that, and move on. And that's the way I work. Once the meeting was over with, it's a new day the following day and you go forward and that. So good, thank you.
Thanks, Ernie. Anybody else?
Just an update is, I think you discussed the softer pickleball. If anybody followed up on the quieter pickleball, I think you mentioned that, didn't you, Dan?
The This is not a question time, though.
Oh,
This is for you to
sorry.
speak.
I gotta learn the rules. Oh, okay.
You can check with Mr. Kangas in the morning if you want.
Oh, okay.
Or before you leave.
Yeah.
Oh,
For
okay.
more information.
And, listening quite a bit interesting. You guys got a lot of stuff on your plate. And a lot of my family members bought property and built a house. My daughter, oldest daughter, she bought some property. She's gonna build a house. She couldn't afford one in Marquette. She is a doctor. But what happened in the old days? Buy some property and build a house. I guess they don't do that anymore.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment, thank you to the board for making the decisions you did tonight, and hopefully come Friday, come to something I'd like to see out of the board and everyone else that is a member of the government here. I appreciate that. Everything you do. I forgot what I was going to say, but
Okay. We'll let Rob speak and you can come back.
yeah,
If you think of it.
what I was going to say is I think it's going to be a hard sell for the TIF amongst yourselves and amongst the rest of the township. And I think that's what I would drive home is what you had mentioned about the economics of it. And I think if you do look at that long term, it does make sense. And it does make economic sense. And again, I feel that's the hard sell amongst yourselves as well as to the township. And I do appreciate those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob Stead, 1420 Cox this time. One comment that the manager made that, and actually a lot of people have been reiterating tonight, is that government processes are slow. Sometimes you think something is just a really easy win, and then you get grant funding and other ideas that pop in. On July 13th, 2021, the DDA voted to put the sidewalk in that connects Werner to the highway on Commerce. It's not even gonna be done this year. We have got grant funding for it, and we've been working on it for over 5 years now. Or by the time it's done, it'll be 5 years. So government does move slow. So the 2 years that we've been going with this project has been long too. But they've got that funding in place pretty quick. What else did I have? Oh, the 48 units, I don't know, maybe Randy would have a better number, or the manager. But what I found is that 48 units would only be a 2.5% increase in housing units in the township, which is fairly absorbable service-wise, in my opinion. And just one comment from my thoughts on the Axe Michigan property tax. I did a quick Google search, and if you trust anything from Google, 23 states currently don't have property taxes. There's a way to make it work. We have no idea what it would look like, and it would be horrible converting to that, I agree, but there are ways to do things. So don't let the sky is falling freak you out. I think we're gonna be all okay in the end. And some of us will be here when stuff is paid off or the TIF is done. Another thing that Bernie had mentioned too, like this building this whole Cornerstone development was funded by a TIF. This building hamstrings 6 boards at least in paying it off. So a 10-year TIF is only 2.5 boards. This is a long process to pay this down and the fire hall down and the updated water facility down. We're also talking about possibly bonding for our water upgrades. Don't know what that's gonna look like yet, but I'm imagining a 20 or 30-year bond, which is gonna be pushed forward to residents for decades to come. Might even outlast me. Definitely outlast some of you guys over here, but might not outlast me. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Go sit down.
Don't make those predictions.
I think just my last comments for tonight, I appreciate everyone's time. The ability to have some conversation this time at the board has been great. I'm looking forward to Friday. I also want to request that if you do have any questions before Friday, if you're able to get them to me so that I can articulately answer them beforehand, very happy to do so. I want to make sure that we have a really collaborative meeting and it's not what's this, what's that. So if you have any of those questions, I'm happy to try to bring them with answers on Friday for all of us so that we have clear, concise understanding as a group what we're working towards. So again, appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anybody else want to visit with us a minute? Any announcements, board?
The only announcement I got is if everyone that drove in today noticed we have a new drop box for election materials right out the door, and it's conveniently where you can just pull up and put it in. So hopefully no one hits it.
And it's got 2 cameras on it, so
Yes.
he's stuffing it.
It's got two surveillance cameras on there, as we are required to do that now. So the slot is closed as of right now because we do not have any elections this fall. So there's nothing this year. But when it comes January, the slot will open and then we'll be getting ready for the midterm elections. So
Is it anchored?
it's bolted into the concrete.
I haven't looked at it.
So, and the reason we did that is we wanted to separate the election materials from the financial stuff, so, you know, it makes more sense. And then, like I said, you can drop your absentee ballot, you can just drive up, put it in, and drive away. That'll be nice.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other announcements? Share? Okay, manager's report. What have you got to share?
Should we talk about pickleball and Heritage Trails? Does anyone even know what Heritage Trails is? Is that the name of the development or not?
It is.
We should probably start talking about Heritage Trails because we keep referring to it as the original single developer when now it's a
Tenant in common.
tenants in common.
Can't remember that either.
And that's just the developers' names. We don't ever refer to developments by their developers' names, it's by the development name. So, Heritage Trails. The only other thing I have to say is it was a good week for revenue because some of the things we've been waiting on for a while, well, at least one of the things we've been waiting on for a while, a project that was completed in February of last year, the solar project, we received our rebate check in the mail for a little over 40% of the construction cost because they also paid us interest.
Oh,
Total of $29,497.26. And we have Kim to thank, we have the contractor Peninsula Solar to thank, we have the Michigan Infrastructure Office to thank, and Raymond, the accounting firm from downstate that's working with the Michigan Infrastructure Office. We wouldn't have known how to file this paperwork. We don't file taxes as a municipality. They helped us through that process. February of '24, government moving slowly. February of '24, we finally got the paperwork processed a few months ago and we have the money. So even with everything going on in Washington, we still got that check from them. So it didn't all get doged, just so everyone knows. Also, the Utility Review Committee did meet for their annual meeting. I attended that on behalf of the township, and we received our distribution annually. That's, well, this year it's based on the amount of revenue divided by the number of customers. Our revenue was $4,304.92. Both of those checks have been received. So I don't always have good news for you. That's kind of a nice piece of good news. And that rebate was on a $70,000 project that we spent marijuana excise tax revenue on. So not specifically local taxpayer money. It's being creative with additional revenue streams that we don't normally receive.
And I think our utility bill, the BLP, was $7.42. And I think on the public works side, it was $4 and something, if I remember going through the packet. That's all I saw us pay. I mean, I'm thinking of the panels are contributing to our cost of electricity, right? It was supposed to be almost like a break even is what you kind of assumed in some, and some during some
At
points.
about 15 years with a 30% rebate, we ended up with a 40% rebate, so you have to do the math on that.
So it's cutting our expenses.
Yeah, and I don't totally trust the numbers that you get from the dashboard on our website, but it'll give you generally what kind of savings we're recognizing in our power bills. And we don't have battery storage either, just so everyone's aware. So we use everything we generate during the day. During the night, it can go back to the grid. And then we'll get reimbursed pennies on the dollar from BLP.
That helps.
Yep.
Any questions for John?
Well, there isn't any power generated when it's dark, just so we're clear. That's all.
Yeah.
Unless you have any questions for me.
Okay, want to review our motions?
Yeah, so the first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. That was approved. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda, and that was approved. The third motion was to schedule a special meeting, the 22nd, this Friday at 2 o'clock for the Renovary purchase agreement. That was approved. The fourth motion was to rescind the TIF motion from the previous meeting that it was done, and that was approved by roll call vote. And the fifth motion was to add the PUD agreement and the 10-year TIF to the special meeting agenda on Friday, and that was approved.
Okay, thank you for that. So our next agenda, we'll have that MTA platform again that you can comment on. We will have the Conservation District here to give us their annual report. I don't know if we'll have the firearms policy yet. Just don't want to forget that. Roger's giving me a dirty look.
I'm not working on that. I was waiting for something from somebody, so I was
Okay.
waiting. I didn't feel the ball was in my court on that.
Okay.
So I don't know where that's coming from, but we can talk tomorrow, but I wasn't under the impression that I was supposed to be drafting something further on that.
I have something, but I don't know if it's final or not. I can show you guys. I just put a question mark there, I wasn't sure. And then our millage rate request, the L4029s will be there for our millages to define how much and are they still going and so everything we have, fire department and DDA and I can't think, there's like 5 or 6 of ours. But anyway, that'll be on the next agenda. And I suppose other stuff. Board member comment? Final thoughts? I guess I'll answer some of the questions that have been posed. I voted for and against items on this project. Sometimes as supervisor, you're privy to things that the public isn't. It's just the nature, it's not good or bad. I feel better knowing that Mitch is involved. We're getting information. That's very helpful.
I think the whole board does.
Yeah, to know what's going on. So thanks for that. But I think what people forget is when you sit back here, we have to look at the whole township. We're not in the development business. We have, and I suppose people are tired of hearing this, but we got beaten up by the tax tribunal since 2009. Not to mention some of the mandates from the state. We've lost $117 million worth of taxable value since 2009. So that's a lot of Lowe's, you know, that was brought up comparing the taxes of Lowe's. I mean, that's money we will never get back, ever. And we constantly have more and more companies going to the tribunal and reducing their taxes. We are on a shoestring budget. And this is the kind of stuff that I look at long-term when I'm thinking about this TIF. We are responsible for these assets and these finances of the people who voted us in. This is not a volunteer group. We're voted to take care of their stuff. We're not voted to build houses. That's not our job, and I don't want to sound cynical, but that's not our job. We can help. We usually help with zoning or ordinances or things like that to give developers more flexibility. But this is also our property, and originally a few other boards before us kept that property in case we needed it for expansion or development of our own. If we're looking to try to find storage, we have looked at buying property. So, does that make sense? That was the intent of previous boards, was to have that property to maybe use it for our expansion. Things have changed, you know, thoughts have changed, the boards have changed many times over, but that's what I was told when I came in. So, we'll see where Friday takes us. Just wanted to share that. We have a lot to think about. It's just not one project. Like the planning commission thinks about a project. We don't do that. So I guess I just want to give the 7 of us a little credit, because we have a lot to consider.
Some good points.
It's not just one project. Any other thoughts? Dan?
On that note, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
That wasn't
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
8:31.
8:31.
Can we join?